You quit Amazon on a Friday and started your company on a Monday.
My business partner, he had said he wanted to jump into business with me because of how I dealt with AT&T for a phone bill. There's this undercurrent of a movement that's happening with wanting to get closer to people. I didn't have any time to even decide if it was hard or easy.
Adam Gehring, or Goring, depending on which AI you ask, here in the Get Busy podcast studios in LA, and I'm super glad to be talking to you. Your story is weird. You have all of this experience at Amazon. You left, and actually the myth is, okay, and I read this on your website, so maybe it's not a myth, maybe it's branding, but the myth is you quit Amazon on a Friday and started your company, which is called Revive Media, on a Monday. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
It's absolutely true.
Okay, let's start there then. First of all, let's talk about Amazon. What did you do at Amazon, and what prompted you? What was the aha moment where you left and said, I'm going to do this thing that's called Revive Media?
Yeah, in my career, I was always doing something that was tied to helping people on programmatic ad buying. So that was the case at Yahoo, then Pandora, then Amazon. So a lot of the same, but definitely some really good talent at Amazon. And I was helping people transition from from managed service actually to self-service. So we were going into big agencies and saying, you can do it. You can save money, you can shift and then take on and get into Amazon's platform and do it for yourself.
Okay, I think this is really interesting because, what you're talking about is this humongous shift in media, right? And every way that we create media, consume media, and perceive media. But go back, for people who don't speak Amazonian, right? What is programmatic advertising and why does it matter?
Well, it's ultimately there's ads out in the ecosystem that are in a bidded marketplace. So it's about accessing these ads, and it could be all over the web. It could be on ESPN, Yahoo, Amazon.com. It could be Prime Video. It could be the audio ads on Alexa. So it's really about coming in and using a machine to be able to buy on your own behalf. So I think that's the easiest way to understand.
Yeah, it's such a, seismic shift from, even 10 years ago, what's happening in the ad media space. So on a Friday, you walk out of the doors of Amazon, and tell me what happens between that Friday and that Monday when you launched your business, Revive Media, and what do you guys do? Like, is it in tandem with Amazon? Like, what is the deal?
Yeah, it was several months in the making. Had been thinking about this idea. Ultimately, programmatic ad buying I sort of alluded to it being easy. You can do it on your own. But the reality is it's like a jet engine cockpit where there's controls everywhere, levers everywhere. And ultimately, there's going to be, of the industry, there's going to be people that know, and I would call them the pilots. And those pilots can utilize the platform, but what about everybody else? What about people that are new to the industry?
Right.
And then you even move on to say, like, even if you have the pilots, or in this case would be like programmatic ad traders with a lot of experience, they're going to be coming in with flying other planes. So they're going to even have a challenge with that. So I had been thinking about this and saying, here it is that my job is to move people from managed service and utilizing Amazon's in-house team to doing it on their own. And it was harder than not expected, but it was just, you would get people bought in on the fact that they could have cost savings. But then when the time came to actually put their fingers on the keys and make it work, it was more of a challenge.
Yeah, and so that's sort of like what was the thing that drove you to create Revive Media. So let's talk about that. Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we live in a sort of interesting space. There's hundreds and hundreds of partners that help brands and agencies on Amazon, but we have a little bit of a unique stance there because we help brands that don't sell product on Amazon. we also help brands that sell product on Amazon, but primarily our customer base is things like QSR or automotive, finance, travel, and utilizing the vast and really interesting data that Amazon has, and combining that to help advertisers find success.
What are the, like, you work with a variety of brands and names, and, what are some of the challenges people have right now in that space?
Well, I think it's they're being told that there's all sorts of new solutions, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, anything. So there's a lot of things that they have to know, and they're always chasing the new and exciting thing. And I tend to look at things like, where are most of the users going? What do I know as just a general consumer of how I utilize that platform, and what does that platform know about me? So these brands and agencies are looking for someone to demystify it and make it easier and allow them to find success before betting the farm on it. They want to have like a peaceful entry into a new platform,
Right.
and we make that possible. Amazon right now is asking for a pretty big commitment from brands and agencies. So people are excited, and maybe they have the means to make those commitments, but that doesn't mean they want to make a large commitment, because at the end of the day, we're in a different economy where people need to show numbers. And we make it easy just to say, we're not going to make you have any sort of commitment. We want to have conversations to know that you're serious. But the last time I checked, I think our average was something like $2,500 per campaign. So that's a big part of what we do, is we zero in on the small details to make sure that we can create efficiencies necessary to be able to offer that low barrier of entry to our advertiser partners.
Right. When starting Revive Media and having the success that you have had, and the impact really that you've had, not only on an industry, but also on the people who work for you, what has it been like? Has it been harder than you expected? Has it been more rewarding?
Yeah, you had asked earlier, and then I'm just a bit of an airhead, I suppose. I just went right through it. But I did leave on a Friday, and I had someone in mind. It was an automotive agency that had just been given a big chunk of money from the OEM. And so I thought it was going to make me a millionaire on Monday. I left. I remember that Friday, like it was yesterday. I walked around with a good friend of mine that worked at Amazon. He's pretty high up in the ranks there. And I had asked him a couple of times, like, what do you think about this idea? He was lukewarm on it. And then ultimately I kept saying it to him, and he said, I just remember those words of, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And when he said that, I said that, because he had also helped me get into Amazon. And so I didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth and just come there and not be there for a long time. In my other stints at other companies, I had spent at least 4 years. And so I then called my wife, then talked to my boss, and then got ready to collect all my money on Monday. And I called them early on a Monday, that firm, and they just sort of laughed, and just thinking, like, you can't possibly think that through the due diligence stage we could pick one person to take
Right.
on this big challenge. So that was I suppose, now coming back to your latest question, I didn't have any time to even decide if it was hard or easy.
Yeah.
I was just stuck in my chair and in the clubhouse of my condo with a whole bunch of older ladies coming up to me and asking me for a pen while I was on business calls, and then I was drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah, yeah. And, you and I spent some time talking a little bit about your style, right? You have a distinct style about how you lead and how you inspire people. And it's a really important thing to talk about, because you are playful and you are curious, and you encourage playfulness because, as we were speaking about earlier, it encourages creativity, right? Can you talk a little bit? I mean, you've got a party barge, you've got a bouncy house,
Yeah.
you've got all the things, but, as we've talked about the culture that you're creating, it's a topic that you bring up, right? So it's something that is important to what you and your brand stand for. Like, talk about the importance of playfulness in the life of Adam.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I like to serve. So it's good that I'm in this service tech business. I like to host, and I like to see adults turn into children again. And I am certainly that. The CRO of Revive, her kids often talk about just like in a serious manner, say, your boss he's a big kid. And I don't know how to even communicate that on a podcast, but they very much mean like, what is wrong with him that he's acting this way? But I really do. All my free time, I suppose, I'm looking for things that instigate fun. And that could be buying an exotic animal. I have a panther chameleon that walks free in the house. My wife didn't love that.
Yeah, I've seen that in your background. Yeah.
So he exists. There's also you talked about the party barge and the bounce house, but there's a number of other things. And I want people we're all remote business, but when people come into town, I want to welcome them into my home. And then I am working in that moment, but I'm working in the sense of I'm running people around being like, you have to experience this and then this. And it actually, I suppose, it's taxing in the way of I might get stressed out that they might not get to play with the 30 things that I have in store for them. I think it's very important for me because that's what re-energizes me.
Right.
And people talk about being extroverts, introverts. I'm certainly an extrovert. And it was one of the things that my wife was the most nervous about in me leaving Amazon because I had worked at 3 large companies.
Yeah.
It gave me what I wanted and being able to see so many new and exciting people. But I was going to be, I always say, in my parents' basement all alone.
Right. Right. And when you left Amazon, like, what are some of the skills you learned there that have come in handy, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, and, this playful genius? Like, what did you take from that experience, that corporate experience that you were able to spin up into something useful as an entrepreneur?
Well, in many ways, Revive is a company that is doing everything that Amazon's not.
Yeah.
And that's not to say anything bad about Amazon. I owe everything to them. They are the hand that feeds us.
Yeah.
They've built such an amazing company. So I was studying their principles. They have learn and be curious. I was studying everything about it, what they were doing right, and then looking for an opportunity of what are they not doing. And when you have such a speed of innovation that Amazon does, it means that there's going to be scraps. There's going to be
exactly
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that is really wise because, if you keep your eyes open, and you are receptive to seeing the opportunities that are just laying right there, the scraps, on the cutting room floor. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what you can do with those scraps. And you're not a scrap. I just want to be clear here. Although I think we should just go ahead and have a full disclosure that you bonked your nose in the swimming pool. And so I keep staring because it's getting bigger, Adam.
Yes.
It's getting bigger.
Is it starting to bleed?
It's not bleeding,
okay.
But I'm worried. If you get dizzy or disoriented, let us know. We'll cart you out of here.
I mean, it's been quite the day. I was in Arizona at some place with a big lazy river. I was a big child. There were drinks involved. I scratched my nose on the bottom of the pool, but I was in the pool.
Oh, you were in the pool.
I didn't dive in.
Okay.
Give
you
me
should
some
be fine
credit. But yeah, then I was in a car for 6 hours driving back here and just thinking about the fact that this might be on camera.
It might, but maybe somebody's listening, and it's fine as long as you feel all right.
I'm great.
So on your on this journey and the journey you're on right now with Revive and the party house and the party barge, bouncy house, how when I talk to people about Amazon and the changing landscape of advertising and ad buying, how do you approach AI? Like, how is AI coming into your world?
Yeah, when I heard about really some moments where AI was starting to advance very quickly,
Yeah.
started to get scared. I'm thinking this is a service business at its core, and it feels like AI can really be impactful to this industry. And it was a horrible time for me, just being like, I didn't see this coming this quickly.
Yeah, I don't think anyone did though. In your defense, nobody saw it coming. But talk to me about how you use it, right? Because there's like two school. There's like the school that's like it's taking over, it's out of the box, we're finished. And then there's let's master this, let's make it, our tool. Like how do you use AI, especially, in your industry?
I mean, I have to digress a second just to say, often I'm holding up ChatGPT
Yeah.
to my face and I'm talking about a moment in time with others and having it create an image of that. And it is the ultimate party starter. So it's there. But I think of it as a commodity. And I
Yeah.
also picture this giant tidal wave, and you either get swallowed up by it or you ride it, and you ride it to great success.
Yeah. It
So
also, just so you know, the next time you're calling it up, it does really good limericks. Like it's
Okay.
really good at limericks. So next party.
pronunciations on my last name not so good.
No, because it was in an Irish accent. Goading.
But yeah, I think we think about AI with we've already built so many really good tracks of how we want to usher people through the process to have them find success. So it's about thinking about AI and in small bits and pieces to say, we want to make sure that the human is involved on every stage. But very early on with Revive, we talked about coaching networks. And we also talked about automating digital media planning. Those were two core things we were building around. And you think about AI injecting itself into those two things, I can't think of a better business.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's really, really handy on, those kinds of things, like very administrative, tasky kinds of things. What bothers me about some of the AI and some of the startups that are, hyping the AI component of their business plans is that it lacks soul, right? Like it is a really good, I mean, weigh in here, especially coming from your experience in your business, you certainly know more than I do, but I can always tell a business plan that's been written in AI. I can smell it a mile away. It's like it's like knowing a certain writer's style. And I'm curious about your experience, like that soul part. And maybe that's just, a writer and a journalist trying to, justify my existence anymore in this world. But, I'm curious. Is it a soul thing lacking in AI?
I'm with you 100%. Our head of marketing uses it from time to time, and I always have to ask her, is that AI? And she's just like, I'm pretty sure you've told me to use it, right?
Right,
So she
right,
doesn't know
right.
what, she's on skates a little bit, but it's more of, I'm sort of testing my own abilities to detect it at all points. And I think you would think with the technology where it's at, how does it not fool us humans each and every time?
Right.
But I sense it too. And I think people want authenticity in the deepest way.
Yeah.
So AI is coming in at a weird time, I suppose, with COVID kicking off such a different way of life, and we were work from home before it was cool.
Yeah,
with COVID.
exactly.
So we were doing things which I feel like there's this undercurrent of a movement that's happening with wanting to just get closer to people. And we don't want the salesperson that comes and buys us a fancy dinner. We want the salesperson that connects with us on a deep level and helps us generate a profit in our own business. And we certainly don't want an AI conversation. with somebody.
Yeah.
So as we think about AI, we don't want it to be on the forefront of having the first communication with a potential partner of ours.
Yeah.
We want it taking away the dirty work. And the dirty work being just the monotonous
It's the dirty
tasks.
work. I mean, I think that's exactly right. It's like, because I was, philosophizing with somebody last week about AI and how it, how do we embrace it, but how do we, make it our bitch, right? Like basically. And this guy who's really way smarter than me, he was like, when spell check first came out, right? Like, all the copywriters in the world, copy editors were like, oh my God, we're finished. And they weren't, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, this just made their jobs a little bit easier, right? And it was integrated. And he's like, I think you just need to, chill out. There's always going to be a place for creative spirit, humans, authenticity. And so, like, is your perspective on AI, and we don't have to stay on AI, but I really do think it's going to impact your world before some of the other worlds.
Amy, I just told you how scared I am.
I know.
So yeah, let's stay on it.
But we don't want to be too scared on the podcast. We want to encourage people to embrace technology. But, what is your philosophy on AI? And I'm asking that because there are entrepreneurs out there who are basing their entire business model on AI or AI bots, right? Like what is your advice to these, I mean, they're kids, what do you say to them?
Well, I've been close to just the wave of, I'm talking to different investors, and it feels like there was just this wave of every plan was DOA if it didn't have AI.
Yes, exactly.
In it. So it's there, but I don't think that young people should be thinking about building businesses around AI. They should think about what they know and thinking about how AI can accelerate what they know and how they can monetize what they know in utilizing AI. So I've talked to probably 10 companies now that are just AI companies, and they're saying, give us a project and we will use AI and finish it.
Yes.
And I say back to them, well, I don't want to do that at all, because now I'm just going to be working for you.
Right.
I need to learn it on a deep level, and we need to be utilizing AI. I need to hire some AI engineers and people that that are very comfortable with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is real. Like the whole, and I've had people, come into my life saying, I've got all this AI that will help let us bring our stuff in. You pay us. And then it's going to replace me, like, I'm like, no, you stay over there and I'll call you when it's time. But back to, young startups and entrepreneurs and, all these dreamers and troublemakers and all the playful people, given your experience and your success, and we talked AI, but what are the lessons you have learned leaving, working for big companies, Yahoo and Amazon, and then starting your own thing? Like, what are the mistakes you've made, and what lessons have you learned? And what is your advice, for the next generation of entrepreneurs?
I always picture this, or I try to tell people about, they say it was so ballsy leaving Amazon.
Yeah, it sounds ballsy.
And I don't remember it that way. I had another kid on the way. You heard the quick story of leaving on a Friday and starting on a Monday.
Yep.
But in my head, it was just like, it's now or never. I see an opportunity. If I don't take it, I'll regret it. And there was no fear. And I used this picture of, there was a motorcycle. I think I know how to ride a motorcycle. I'm going to get on it. And then when Revive found success, and I don't remember exactly what that revenue number was, but at that moment, and it was such a bizarre feeling, all the fear rushed in after success had come.
Why do you think that is?
It was one of those things that I was the jump was so exhilarating. I was on that motorcycle that when I got off, I went, where the fuck was my helmet?
Right.
I don't actually know
That is really weird, because usually it's the inverse, right? People are afraid to take that first step, right? And then they never do. But you took the first step, you got, a few feet in, and then you're like, holy fuck, right? Like, so like, how did you deal with that delayed onset of fear?
Well, it was a good time to have it because
Well,
then
I
I was
guess
like,
because you're already in, like, what are you going to do?
things are going well now. Why this is a weird feeling of fear. I'm just going to
Was
squash
it
it.
like imposter syndrome or was it actual fear?
I don't know. Imposter syndrome is here every day for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
But I suppose it was just acknowledgement of something that's maybe for me, and I don't know if I'm all that unique with it, but I tend to just delay certain feelings. Which I
Is
guess
it the adrenaline?
I think so.
I
I
think
mean,
it is. I think a lot of entrepreneurs like a Richard Branson and, you are addicted to that adrenaline burst, that dopamine hit. And then you get there and you're like, shit, what am I doing? And, a lot of us are that way, and I don't know what to do about that. It's just like, it's a thing you're going to have to deal with.
yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm glad I did it. The lessons that I've learned over the last 5 years are I can't even quantify them, and I'm someone that there's this little saying that my business partner and he always says, I don't know why we came up with it, but I rebuild sandcastles. It's like you put together a sandcastle, someone can come and kick it down and you can have another one in an
Yeah.
instant. So there's also that country song maybe by Kenny Rogers where he says he's the best hitter in the world. He keeps tossing up the ball and then he's the greatest pitcher after he never hits it. And I think I just love that mentality, and I don't really remember the mistakes all that well. I am someone that just zeroes in and says, like, in the moment, I made a mistake. I'm probably not all that easy to work with when I say, like, I need to understand where everybody made a mistake, and I'm not trying to place blame. I'm trying to
Yeah.
really understand exactly how we move forward. And after that, it didn't happen. Then it just didn't happen in my brain. It's gone. And I've certainly learned from the experience, but it's so true. I think people are starting to talk about it more, about just being comfortable with mistakes. And God knows I made a lot of them.
Yeah.
I certainly did growing up. That I'm so fortunate that my parents got me out of a lot of jams
Me
growing
too.
up. So yeah, I like to never think I'm better than anyone. I'm just so fortunate to be in this chair that I had someone
Yeah.
that took care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really good to fail. And we are actually in a culture, we're lucky to be in a culture that, embraces failure to some extent, right? Because we're allowed to make these mistakes and come back and iterate. Our parents get us out of, the pinches that we're in. And we learn and we build and we grow. And in other cultures, where entrepreneurship is very, very new in a place like Croatia or even Denmark, like the whole concept of being your own boss is very, very new. Failure is not an option. You got one shot. Right? In this country, like we can fail and we can come back, we can emerge better, right? Bigger. Like Silicon Valley is like, an excellent example of that. And so where you are right now and, with Revive, how do you stay relevant, right? Like how do you take your mistakes and your fail? Like what comes next? What's your next iteration?
When I jumped out and started Revive, I was thinking failure was not an option.
Yeah, I think you have to think that.
Right.
So
I was thinking this is one and done, and I really do think that mentality is key because you want to sweat the small stuff out of the gate.
Yeah.
You do not want to take others' advice of how to spend your money because it's every time you start a business, it's your business and there's nothing to mimic. I mean, there's maybe some things to mimic, but there's no one's going to give you the blueprint to success.
Right.
So it's all those little details.
talk to me. Like you just said, you do have to sweat the details. What are the details that you should be sweating? All of them?
Every dollar.
Every dollar.
Right? It's my business partner, he had said that he wanted to jump into business with me because of how I dealt with AT&T for a phone bill in college. And it's an interesting thing because I don't know if I love this story, and now I'm saying it on the first podcast I've ever done. But I just fighting tooth and nail for something, and I think I needed it. I think I needed the money at the moment to get into a party or something like that in college. But he saw the way that I was just each person that came onto the line next. I was a different person, that I was just trying to appeal to that person and in the end get what I wanted. I'm not proud of that because it was just probably a free month of service. But I think it got him excited because he had been seeing a lot of CEOs in his line of work, and he was just like, "You can do it. Anybody can do it, as long as they care, they have the passion." And I suppose it does take some aptitude and some other good traits, but it just comes down to fight to win.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you think you were born an entrepreneur, or do you think you became one later in life? I mean, not that much later, but halfway.
Honestly, I never thought. I grew up in Nebraska. I wanted money, and money came by being a lawyer, a doctor, or owning a business.
Yeah.
As owning a business, how would you come up with an idea for that? It's not in my family so much. I have a lot of doctors. My sister's a doctor. A lot of cousins. I was pre-med and was just I hate being in a hospital with everything that I am. So it was good that I picked up on that early enough to divert from that plan. But then I just got addicted to people and
creativity. It sounds like too. Mm-hmm. You seem to be a seeker, right? You're a seeker, mm-hmm. and that's a rare. I mean, I'm not judging you. Just to be clear here, but it's a really wonderful quality because it means that you're curious, right? Mm-hmm. And you're inventive, and I think that is something that you're born with. I don't mm-hmm. think that you can create that.
Yeah, I'm certainly that, and I don't know if it was in my immature days. I don't know if I was able to connect the dots to say that creativity and these things could translate into owning a business. Yeah. I thought I was just going to be the class clown early on. I thought I was going to be the life of the party in college, and then I thought I was going to be, which these were all true. In big business, I was connectivity. I was the person that was saying, "Let's make work fun. Let's get together for this. Politics was my kryptonite. I'm not playing that game. Right. I don't care enough to become a manager. I'd rather be everyone's friend." And ultimately, it was important that I was surrounding myself with people that were rising stars, very smart people, because I also suffer from some strong ADHD, and I wasn't reading any books. I wasn't learning in that manner, so I was having to learn from people. And it just so happens that that's a perfect combination when you're trying to network, which I wasn't trying to network by definition, I suppose. I was just saying, I want to make friends with these people that are going to make me smarter.
Yeah.
Which, networking.
Yeah, how would you describe your, when I was reading about your company, and there's a recurring theme in some of your branding and some of the coverage and that's a theme of trust. Mm. And how do you build a culture of trust, and how do you, as a leader, create that?
I think it starts with do the right thing always. And I just saw, of course, social media is, I'm saying these things and it's regurgitating it back to me. But just today, something said do the right thing when no one's watching. It's called integrity. Yep. But it's surprising how many times in these last 5 years someone has said, "That's really smart. You did this in this way." And I was like, news for you. I had no idea it was going to benefit in that way. I just did the right thing, and one of the ramifications of that, which is probably not the right word, but one of the byproducts of it was just success in that category. And I can use it in the sense of, if we run a campaign and we make a mistake and nobody can figure out that we made that mistake, what should we do?
Right.
And I just got done saying, like, get down to the pennies on and be cutthroat on an AT&T cell phone bill. But in that moment, no, that is not what you do. You do the right thing and you tell people. And it's not so much about the customer at that point. It is, but it's about your own people, because you're looking to scale these efforts.
Right.
And if your people feel free to say, I made a mistake and nobody's going to lord it over me and I can do the right thing. And it's just, that's what creates the magic in the end. That you got to create trust with your own people, because then your people will be speaking their truths when they're serving
Right.
your customers.
Right. And it is the right thing to do. And I think, that is such an oft overlooked part of cultures of excellence, is doing the right thing and encouraging people to do the right thing. As far as, this next question, which is kind of loaded, but, there are a lot of leaders out there in tech, like really all over the place, who are assholes, right? Mm-hmm. Who don't do the right thing, who don't encourage creativity and collaboration. And, like, if you had some advice for the assholes out there to be more fun, what would that advice be? Aside from just saying, be more fun.
I think a lot of the assholes might just have to stay assholes.
You think so? You think that it's not fixable?
Well, I think it's important to say that in our background, we took investment from a company called LCAP. It's also my business partner and his partner, Canal. His name's Stuart Bradley. They when they invested, there were strings attached because it was an investment, but they gave me the freedom to build at my own pace. And so I think that's really important, where it might seem like I just went on a tangent where how does this have anything to do with assholes? Well, I think I could have been an asshole if I had strings attached to me forcing me to do certain things. And so I think that's really good, something that I would want anybody to know that I care about that's starting a business, is to think about the foundational elements. Yeah. Because I
think that's the title of your book, Adam. I could have been an asshole. Right? Like, I mean, just think about it. It's got intrigue, I mean, it's really like what you're saying is really important. And it's also like, we all could have been an asshole, right? Yes. Like, it's a cultural issue.
Maybe the title is "We all could have been assholes." Me too. Not
we could still have been be assholes. Like, there's still possibilities for it. I mean,
tell me now that the title of this one isn't going to have the word asshole in it.
I think it should definitely be called "He Could Have Been an Asshole," but he wasn't. But there's still time. So I think that the other thing, just your story and the playfulness that you have and that sense of what you stand for and self, the assholes, even though they'll probably always be assholes, they could learn a lot from you, because, while we hear a lot about authenticity, authentic leadership, you're actually living a very authentic life and being authentic, and you are unapologetic about who you are. Mm-hmm. And the party barge, in your front, and the bouncy house and all of that. Like, that takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to pull that off. Authenticity, Yeah,
I think gratitude is key, where I'm constantly feeling grateful for what I have. And that was well before the party barge,
right,
and anything else. And if you keep that front and center, then I think that is maybe the kryptonite of being an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I think people can change and get better for sure, but they need to correct those foundational elements sooner rather than later to make sure that they don't have something that's pushing them in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to learn from you. And, just as we're kind of closing this up, and this whole conversation is about so much more than, business and starting up something. It's about, living your life in a way that, you believe in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you are so authentic. And so for the startups out there and the founders, in part, your top three pieces of advice, how would you advise young entrepreneurs in any industry to be great?
Well, people always say start a business around your passions, and I would be like, am I passionate about advertising? Not so much. But I think you have to, it's that sort of the saying of put your oxygen and mask on first. Like for me with Revive, I started a work from home business because I love my wife and I have now 3 kids and another on the way, and I wanted to be close to them. Travel gave me anxiety. So the moral there is just take care of yourself, because your company is going to be, you could help me with it. I don't even know what to say. It's going to be some form of you.
Yeah, it's an extension of you and your life and everything that you are.
So if you're miserable,
yeah,
how about that? That's not a really good company, I wouldn't think. So that's 1. 2, I would say look for help. Look for something which some might call it product market fit, which I learned after things were going, just that term. Again, I didn't read books in college, so I don't know how I'm here. But I think look for unfair advantages. And Revive has aligned incentives with Amazon where I get to...
What does that mean, unfair advantages? It sounds like cheating.
Yeah, it's a better word for cheating. But just like in the case of with Amazon, there's heavy growth and they don't want to do managed service. I know how to do managed service. That would have been sort of the thinking, and that's sort of an unfair advantage of I'm
Okay,
sitting
I got
here.
it now. Yeah.
Yep. And then 3, I don't know. This is hard. I'm just making these up on the fly.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I think have fun. Like just listening to your story and your extraordinary approach to life is, about having fun. It doesn't mean reckless. It just means enjoying the moment, I think.
Make things fun. Honestly, if anybody ever ends your sentences, what are the odds that you picked 3 for me and you nailed it? And I mean that. Because it's when I was a sales guy at Pandora, it was about just making it fun, and somehow I was beating my numbers each quarter.
Yeah,
and
changes everything. It really does. Okay, so let's start with this. What are you most proud of?
My life as a whole.
What is your biggest mistake?
I don't have one.
That is spoken like a true adrenaline junkie. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
From my mom, be nice. Just say it in a way of now I have a shirt that says be kind, and I've gotten VIP just at several things wearing it. It's got mushrooms that says be kind, and it's just it's saying what I want. And so then people are like, he's got to be kind if he's telling people to be kind. And so just be nice is that it's the only commandment you need. And saying it another way, because it's not this long thing that it's hard to remember, but just saying be nice, but then stopping and being that's all you have to do. All you have to do.
Favorite album?
One comes to mind that's Malibu by Anderson .Paak. And he was interesting because he played so many the drums. You don't think of a rapper and musician and being such a killer on the drums. And then that album, I tend to not be an album guy. I can't sit through an album, and that one took me. maybe for the first time. And my wife and I think, listened to it a lot when we were nesting for our first.
All right, so this is the big granddaddy of them all question. All right, so we're doing an unscientific survey of the use of curse words in Colorado versus California. And so, all of us together as a team want to ask you if you are a fuck, shit, or asshole guy. What word do you use to describe and express yourself the most?
Shit.
We've got another shit. Okay, so, all right. So California now has 5 fucks and Colorado has 6 shits. Well, thank you so much for sitting down in the blue couch here at the Get Busy Studios. It's been a real joy to talk to you. Thank you for coming in. A lot to unpack.